Hello and welcome back to the unofficial Black Lamb and Gray Falcon audiobook companion. I am your travel guide, James Snyder. In this episode, we follow Rebecca West and her husband on their journey crossing the Alps by train into Zagreb. With her husband, Rebecca West travels by train from Salzburg, Austria to Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. They climb to Bad Gastein and the Hohe Tauern railway tunnel built in 1909, bearing the name of the Emperor Franz Joseph at its entrance, to Villach high in the Austrian Alps. They traverse the Wörther Sea to Ljubljana, Slovenia, and then on to Zagreb. West does not visit Slovenia and mentions Ljubljana just once in passing, and marking that station only on the map on the end paper of the first edition. West and her husband are joined in the first-class car by a clatch of Germans who left Berlin for a 30-hour rail trip to the Dalmatian coast of the Adriatic. Here we see West's keen personal and cultural critic emerge as she scrutinizes these thoroughly average people leaving the hothouse of their country. She hears them fuss about comfort and diet and work. She watches them visibly relax as soon as they enter Yugoslavia. She observes them chastise a young man who attempts to join them in first class with a second-class ticket. She writes, "The vehemence was so intense that we took it for granted that it must be due to some other reason than concern for our comfort, and supposed the explanation lay in the young man's race and personality, for he was Latin and Epicene." She remarks their delight in her husband's excellent German. He was interned as an enemy alien in Ruhleben during World War I and worked in Berlin until he objected to a Nazi hack replacing a Jewish colleague, as if they were complimenting him on being good as well as clever. She also listens to their stories of the political transformation underway at home. Their children, they confide, are all for Hitler. They are not upset by Nazi ideology so much as its political interference in their everyday lives, especially commerce. One explains how her hairdresser had lost her job after failing the test for her license. "Yes, I am good at my work," she quotes her hairdresser, who proudly enumerates her services, "but keep from mixing up Goering's and Goebbels's birthday. That can I not do." West's companions bewilder her completely. She feels warmth for them when they react like children to seeing the snow in the Alps, and she commiserates with their tales of political and economic chaos after 1918. This aside, she finds them irritating. They view the country they are passing through with naked contempt. Dalmatia is redeemed only because that is where Germans go, and, as a result, they believe the hotels and food they are accustomed to at home will follow. West, piqued, insists that the local cuisine and accommodations are excellent. The Germans are prototypically middle-aged and middle-class. West might appear to have succumbed to anti-bourgeois sentiment common among leftists of the age, but for a jarring, climactic mystification she witnesses as they reach their first station in Yugoslavia. As they are approached by a Croat conductor, West is astonished to discover all 4 Germans were squatting in the first-class cabin on second-class tickets. This explains their strange vehemence when ejecting the alien young man who had tried to do the same thing. The Germans try to bribe the Croat conductor, who turns purple in rage and indignation. He shouts them down, and they meekly submit. West and her husband are quietly appalled at this most monstrous perfidy. Most of this could pass as social commentary in the vein of E.M. Forster or P.G. Wodehouse, a slight comedy of manners diverting from the main argument of the book. But West hides in plain sight a cutting indictment in miniature of the regime that, at the moment of her writing, controls all of Europe. The lack of moral awareness evidenced by her German cabin mates, combined with their reflexive deference to authority and force, goes very far to explain Germany in the 1930s. She writes, "It was disconcerting to be rushing through the night with this carriage full of unhappy muddlers, who were so nice and so incomprehensible, and so apparently doomed to disaster of a kind so special that it was impossible for anybody not of their blood to imagine how it could be averted." That is an extraordinary prediction, given the book was published in 1941. Somehow, even in that dark moment, she saw the Armageddon that would befall Germany in 1945. This section and the prologue before it are comparatively shortish examples of West's creative approach. She marries an astonishing attention to detail to very long exposition, which can appear to meander as if the interest in a shiny new thing were taken to its logical extreme. But West always tells a story to reach its moral. She foreshadows what becomes reality outside the book, but also, as we will learn, affects an individual exemplar who arrives in the narrative later. She is at once anticipating, observing, and explaining the reductive seduction of fascism. She is also contrasting these fussy burghers to the Yugoslavs they scorn in relation to her own experience. As the train approaches a suburban station outside Zagreb, she observes an elderly man, his thin body clad in a tight-fitting, flimsy overcoat, trotted along beside the train, crying softly, "Anna, Anna, Anna." He held an open umbrella not over himself, but at arm's length. He had not brought it for himself, but for the beloved woman he was calling. He did not lose hope when he found her nowhere in all the long train, but turned and trotted all the way back, calling still with anxious sweetness, "Anna, Anna, Anna." As the train pulls away, she notes a ray of light from an electric standard shone on his white hair, on the dome of his umbrella, which was streaked with several rents, and on the strong spears of the driving rain. In that evocative sketch, we see West in repose, the strain of social pretense evaporating. She is relieved. "I was among people I could understand."